Hey everyone, I am so excited to be here. I'm Romi, and this is my 2 out of 5 on my knit along. And I'm having a few internet problems today, so I wanted to warn you all in case something funky happens because there are some serious thunderstorms in the area. And if the case is that I lose you all, then I will reschedule and try to come back and make sure that everything is fine. So you'll probably experience a little bit extra buffering, but hopefully this will be okay. Um, if it's not, again, I will come back and make sure everything's okay. So, wow, today, I can't believe it's a week later. I'm trying out some open broadcasting system software, and I am like a kind of an old fart from forever ago. I actually have a master's in broadcasting, and so the interface looks really familiar to me, but it's weird to be doing it completely electronically instead of having a switching system. So hopefully everything goes off and this will be good. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. So here we have the pattern. I also wanted to say before I get started talking about the pattern that please, I want you to feel free to send me any live chats. Okay, I don't know if anybody's still here, but hopefully at least you'll be able to come back and see this later. I'm really sorry we had a lightning strike and everything got sort of knocked out for a bit. So anyway, here we go again. So, um, continuing from where I was, please feel free to ask questions about everything. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the X values in the chart. Um, so remember I was talking before about how in the chart there would be X values, and as we go on and start repeating more and more, that the X values would change, but the rest of the chart would not change. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Okie doke. So we are right about here in the chart. And as you can see, work chart C 3 times, and then X equals 2. So if you take a little look over here at chart C, you can see that there is a red box here. And in that red box, there is a work X number of times. Okay, so for this one, it's 2 times. That's where we are right now. So what would happen is we're going along, we're going to start working, and chart C is worked across the bottom here. When we get to this repeat area, you're going to work 3 stitches 3 times. That means 9 stitches. And then we're going to continue across here, working all the way, and then it's going to end at the red box, and you're going to go all the way back here to the other side. Start right at the first part of the red box where it says 3 stitches, work 3 times. So this whole area in here is repeated. So you're going to work these first few stitches, this red area you're going to work twice, and then after that you're going to go down here, and that is the end of the shawl. So that is just like before. We're going to work that the first time through chart C, we're going to go 4 times, and then the second time 6 times, and then the third time 8 times. So let's take a look here. Okay, going to take my Post-it there and place that across. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to start working chart C. And I'm not sure if anyone can ask questions if there's a live chat, because I'm not getting the live chat feature coming up, even though I am live streaming again. So if you're not able to ask a question, then go ahead and email me and ask your question, or also you can go and take a look at my Ravelry group. So just going to start here. Okay. So we were talking before about how the markers move on this row, and just going to move my stuff around here so I can start the row. Alrighty. So I'm going to replace all of my markers all the way across because they're all moving. So, well, except for this first one. So I'm going to do a yarn over, and then we're going to do a knit 4, and then I'm going to get to the red box. So that's how this is going to look. So yarn over, and then we're going to do a knit 4, 3 and 4. And then I'm going to slip that marker because that one is staying put. So now I'm going to go down to marking. I'm going to work 9 stitches here because I need to work those 3 stitches 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So you can see here, this marker is going to come out. I need to place another marker right here, and I'm going to do that. So there's my marker placed, and now I am right at the end here of the working the 3 stitches 3 times, 9 stitches. So I'm going to work 3 stitches, and then I'm going to start on the pattern, and I'm going to take that old marker out because I do not need it any longer. So my marker is gone. Now I'm going to go and do a knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, and to knit 3, and then knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, going to knit 3. Okay, and now I'm to the end of this little pattern section here. Almost to the end of it, not quite. Okay, so one more. And now I'm at the end, Okay, so I'm at the end of the pattern section. I'm going to kind of check back and make sure where I am. I just did the knit two together, so I'm going to go to the end of this area here that's within the red box. So I've done a yarn over and then knit one through the back loop. And then that marker is not going to change for me. 2, 3. Okay. So now I'm right here, and on the chart, I'm going to go back to the start of the red box here, and because my X value here is a 2, so I'm going to go right back to this area here and work that again. So I slipped my marker, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. So I'm at the end right here. I'm going to place a marker because that marker that I see right 3 stitches away, that is no longer the place it needs to be. So I'm going to grab another marker. I'm going to put it in there, and then I'm going to knit those 3 stitches and take that marker out. Okay, so at this point, I'm right here. So I have this whole amount of patterning to do. Okay, so I'm going to, well, I just dropped a stitch. So here we go. I'm going to pick the stitch back up and then knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, then knit 3, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, knit 3, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1 through the back loop, and then knit 3. Okay, so when you first turn the corner here of this little panel, it seems like you're doing the wrong thing, but you actually are doing the right thing. Just read what the chart says, because it doesn't seem like you would be knitting 2 together right there. So, but you are going to be knitting 2 together, and that is just going to create the corner like it did right down here on the first panel. So it's going to create a little corner. So I'm right here. I've just done my 3 stitches, and now I'm going to knit 2 together there and then yarn over and knit 1 through the back loop. So I've done my knit 2 together. Okay, now I'm going to yarn over and knit 1 through the back loop. So this right here is the corner. Now I'm going to take this stitch marker out, and at this point I'm right here in these 3 stitches here. So I'm going to do my 3 stitches, and then I'm going to add another stitch marker, and I'm going to be knitting 12 stitches right here. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I'm going to take my marker out. 10, 11, and 12 stitches. So that's at the end of our repeat right here. And so we have just this 2 stitches left. So I'm going to place another marker there. And I'm going to knit those last 2 stitches. Okay, so it's always I always count all my stitches just like you guys do. So that's at least there's that, right? So I'm just going to show you. Okay. All right. So we have done the first row of chart C the first time through. And as we progress up the chart, it's going to be basically the same thing. So I'm going to show you now. Someone was talking to me about how to put a lifeline in. So I want to show you that, but I'm going to take just a little tiny bit of a moment and see if I can get my live chat back so that I can see if I can answer anybody on live chat. Because right now I'm for some reason it's not working for me. So I want to make sure that I'm not missing people. Um, let's see what I can do about that. So hopefully I will be able to find you all. The storm is kind of still raging out there. Um, I don't know. Okay, let's see if I can find you. Okay. So it's not looking good. Okay, here we go. I actually got some live chat, and that is making me so excited here. Um, okay, I'm just kind of taking a look through here. I just want to make sure everybody's doing okay. So Claire said that if you don't have skinny cut up straw markers, I make mine with lace yarn around a pencil, so different colors lace, if that helps somebody. And that is completely awesome. Any type of stitch marker that you like, I think that is great. I love that because with your with your little tiny skinny lace yarn, they're really easy to move around and really easy to like move around everything. So, okay. And then Deborah asked what my other yarn looks like. And this is my other yarn. So this is my beautiful yellow. It's like a sunny day. And these two yarns are sock yarn dyed by a local dyer in Reno. And his name is Jay, and his company's name is Archaic Fibers. So here I'm going to hold it up so you can see it up top here. And these two yarns are Blueface, Leicester, and Nylon. And so he's actually dyeing some tweed because he can't get the space right now because of quarantine. So he's dyeing up some amazing, beautiful tweed combinations. So when he sends me a picture, I will show everybody. It's really pretty. Okay, so I'm so glad that you guys are still there. I so appreciate your hanging out and waiting for me. So, the next thing I want to do is show you how to do a lifeline. And a lifeline is a line of yarn that you put through your stitches so that if you make a mistake. So you're going to have to watch me knit just for a moment because I don't like to put a lifeline in after a pattern row. So I'm just going to really quickly work this, the wrong side row. So I was talking about yarn substitutions last week, and this one is nylon and Blueface Leicester, and Blueface Leicester is a British long wool. So it has a lot more spring to it than the bamboo does. And there are a couple of things that you can do to help with working when you work with a wool that doesn't have as much ability to block out. So I'm actually loosening up on my tension as I'm knitting. So it actually feels a little bit sloppy in my hands because my tension is so loose. But one of the things about wool is when you knit with it, you're actually stretching it as you go. So because it's kind of stretchy and it has all that memory, if you tension it really tight in your hands when you're knitting, you're actually going to create a smaller gauge. So I'm just holding this much looser. So I know some people actually wrap their yarn around their little finger. I don't do that. So it just flows kind of through my fingers like this, and it's much looser. So Barbara says raining cats and dogs in the Washoe Valley. Yep. Yes. We haven't gotten the rain here, believe it or not, just the lightning, and it struck. So I'm a little bit nervous. I'm hoping it will rain cats and dogs so that any fire might get put out. So, and then Linda asks, the 3 in the box for part 1 is now changed to a 2 for part 2 of the shawl. No. Okay, so what happens? All of the numbers that are on the chart stay exactly the same. So that's one of the reasons that I put this X in here, because I didn't want to make it more difficult for everybody with all the changing numbers. So this stays exactly the same here, that 3 and the 3 times here, exactly the same. Over here, the 3 stitches in that repeat area, exactly the same. And then the work 4, 6, or 8 times, that's all exactly the same. So the only thing that changes is instead of working this chart straight across all the way to the end, you're going to come back, you're going to work it one time here until you get to the edge of that red box. Then you're going to come back to the side of the red line here and then work it another time all the way through. And as you're working, you'll notice that it makes sense because this will start building out on that second little area here that you started in chart D. So this pattern row here will end up straight on top of this pattern right across here, and it will make sense to you. It will continue, it'll continue your pattern up and make sense. So let's see, I hope that makes sense. So any of the numbers that are shown on the charts, those numbers will stay the same. None of those numbers change. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could make it easier to understand rather than having lots and lots of changing numbers. So that one, I just chose that one little number there, the X value there, and I took that out and put X in so that you could differentiate it from the rest of the repeats in there, and hopefully it wouldn't be as confusing. So I'm almost to the end here, and I'm just watching the chat to make sure everybody's good. So Mel says, Claudia and icky cold in Canberra. I could actually do with some cold. That would be nice. It's been in the 90s here steadily. So, okay, let's see. About to get to the end here finally, and then I'm going to show you how to put in a lifeline. Alrighty, just going to turn that over. Okay, so Barbara said, totally agree now that I am on my 3rd time through headed for my adding the 4th rectangle. Excellent. I'm glad that it's working for you. Okay, so lifelines. Lifelines are to help so that you don't make mistakes, or when you do make mistakes, then easily, like you can just rip back and you'll have something right through the middle of all of your stitches, and you'll be able to just rip back to your waste yarn that's across here, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to stick your stitches back on the needles. So I like to do my lifeline. When I put my lifeline on, I'm going to do it after a resting row. So I call the back side a resting row because there was no patterning on it. I just knit all the way across. And Mel said she would send me some cold, and I would be happy. I'd be happy to trade some hot for cold. That would be awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put some waste yarn right through the middle of my stitches, and I'm going to go through my stitch markers. Some people don't like to do that, but I do, because when you go through the stitch markers with your waste yarn, then if you have to rip back, you will already have your stitch markers placed. So I really like that. Um, I use unwaxed dental floss for for a lifeline, but today I am going to use just some mercerized cotton, and I am going to place my mercerized cotton with just a plain old blunt tapestry needle. So using dental floss is okay. Don't use waxed dental floss. Um, I like the minty freshness in my knitting, but anyway, I actually was talking to somebody who tried using dental floss on a very fine lace weight Shetland yarn and it cut through. But mostly dental floss is fine for whatever your use is. So Eva asked, what is X? So I'm just gonna pull this back out, and so here is where on the chart you'll see each time it says to work, there will be an X value. So X equals 2. And when you take a look up on your chart, you'll see work X times. So you're just going to substitute. And anybody who might have been late and not caught all of it, I talk about it more. And so you'll be able to go back and just see what I said about it. And while I was blathering on about X values. So I now have my mercerized cotton, and it's threaded onto a blunt tip needle. So I like to use um, cabled uh, knitting needles instead of circular needles instead of straight needles. So this is kind of a cool part of that. I just put all of my stitches on the actual cable instead of on the points, and that makes it much easier for me to put this needle through the stitches. So I'm just going to run this all the way through my stitches, and some knitting needles have a little, they're like the interchangeable needles have a little hole at the bottom of each needle, and there are people who just thread their waste yarn into that little hole and then knit across. So the ones that I'm using right now don't have that hole. So I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way and just kind of running. I don't want to split any of my stitches because I want to make sure this is all the way just through the middle of the loop. So another really important thing when you're placing a lifeline, you want to make sure that you mark on your chart exactly where you placed your lifeline so that if you have to rip back, you know where you are. It's easy sometimes to get lost in the middle and kind of second guess yourself. So I am going to, once I've placed this lifeline and I've gotten it all the way through, I'm going to mark it on my chart where it was. Okay, so now I have my yarn, my waste yarn is right through all of my stitches. You can see that red yarn there. So I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to leave a fair amount of leeway here. So I'm loosely going to knot the ends of it. So I want to make sure that my lifeline does not come out. So I'm just going to knot this up. Okay, so that's not going to come out now, but I did it loose enough so that it doesn't affect my gauge at all. And now that I have placed my lifeline, so I'm going to make a little bit of a note on my chart here. So I am going to make a note that I place lifeline after row 2, first time through. So I just want to make sure that if I'm going to go back and have any type of problem, that I know exactly where I am. And also I had checked below to make sure there are no mistakes below the lifeline. That's really important. Okay, so the next row that I knit, I'm just going to be going along, and I will be replacing all of my stitch markers, and these will just be kind of hanging out on my lifeline as I knit. And over here, you can see I have that knot still, so it's pretty loose. If I hold it up here, you can see it still stretches really well. So I want to make sure that I don't affect my gauge at all. That's the big thing here. So let's see. Oh, Jan is getting hail. Oh my gosh. It's pretty stormy everywhere, it seems like. Okay. So one question that one of the people who's knitting this knit along asked was how to keep your place, and kind of, I think that she was getting lost in the middle of the charts. So how to keep your place in the charts. Um, I think the I think probably the biggest funky area is over here when you're putting together, when you're like getting sort of the foundation for the next lace panel, and you have to turn the corner here. It's really easy to lose where you are. So I think it's so easy to second guess yourself right on this area here, it's probably like the biggest place that you can just sort of lose where you are. So I guess my biggest tip would be just make sure that you're counting as you're going across. Um, the chart is a little bit different from usual because instead of everything being really directional and leading up to the point, you have everything is a knit two together. So that can make it just a little bit hard to remember where you are. But remember that these need to look like diamonds. Um, If you turn it, they look exactly like squares, like they're perfect little squares. So I think the biggest thing I could say is look for visual cues in your knitting. And if you're starting to get a hole here and there in the garter stitch or something, and you're kind of wondering what's going on, that's probably the time to sort of count your stitches more. Okay, and then I had another question about how much yarn was used in this. So let me grab my yarn leftovers. Okay, so I had 7 grams of master color left over, and I had 20 grams of my my contrast color. So I designed the shawl so that you would not be using quite as much of the master color, I'm sorry, of the contrast color in case you need to go back and do a couple of extra rows in the contrast color at the top. So you'll see once you get to the top of the triangle, you'll be binding off in this contrast color, and then you're picking up stitches all the way around in the contrast color. So there's a place up on, so once you get finished with chart E, so once you're finished with this, you're just going to be working back and forth on garter stitch. So if you're running a little bit short on your master color, you can do a couple of extra rows along the top in your contrast color, and it will still look really nice in the pattern. So I'm just going to grab this down and kind of show you the top here. So the top is bound off. You can see here it's the darker color. It's my contrast color. So if you feel like you're running a little bit over and you need to conserve some yarn, you can do like anywhere from 2 to 4 extra rows in the contrast color, and you'll still have enough to do the edging. So no worries about that. I've got your back. Okay, so I did also have a question earlier today about eventually picking up stitches around the edge. So I just wanted to kind of show what this looks like. So if you take a look at the edge here where all of your yarn overs are, you're going to be picking up stitches straight through these yarn overs. So there's a little bit of a twist here in between the yarn overs, and then the stitch is going to be right through the center here. So once you start picking up the stitches, it becomes really easy to see where your yarn overs are. And believe me, you'll find that it's like some of the easiest stitches you've ever had to pick up. So it's actually pretty fun. Okay, so Claire asks, would lightly variegated contrast color ruin the intricate design, thinking solid color throughout rather than a master color and contrast? No, you could totally do that. I think a lightly variegated color would be fine. As long as it's like a light variegation or sort of tonal variegation. So there actually is some tonal variegation in the yarn that I use for in the border here, and it's really pretty. It's I think garter stitch lace often lends itself pretty well to slightly variegated yarns. And the only thing that I would suggest is when you start knitting a little bit of the lace, kind of steam it out and see how that opens up. Because sometimes it looks sort of like your pattern is being hidden by the variegation, but really all it is that the lace is not opened up yet. So I think I would go for it. And there actually are a couple of other people who are knitting it in just one color. So I am just going to cover the poor mannequin here who needs just a little bit of covering. There we go. And I'm going to wait just a moment and see if anybody has any more questions um, about that. And I'll blather on a little bit more. So the next one of these, there's a lot, there's a lot to work through in the next section. So Claire, okay. Yeah, Claire, I think Schaefer and Merino Mohair, that would be beautiful, I think. That would be really pretty. Okay, so we're going to go all the way through. Um, Once we've gone through chart C and chart D, and we see the X value is 2, we're going to go back to chart C and back to chart D again, and then back another time to chart C. So each time you work another repeat of chart C and D, the X value will go up 1. So next time we're going through chart C, you will see that the X value will go up to 3 and then 4. And then Barbara asked if I'll be doing the transition next time. Yes. So number 3 is chart E, and then we're just going to, so I'm going to work actually all the way through the pre-transition, and I am going to show you all how to do the bind off. And then, because that's a reverse stockinette I chord, and then I'm going to do the whole transition. I'm going to talk about going through and picking up all the stitches and the loops along the sides. And yeah, we're going to have a great time. And so let's see, it looks like there aren't any more questions. So, wow, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your patience. Now, of course, that this is coming to an end, the storm is over. But anyway, I so appreciate your joining me. It is so like I just can't even thank you enough for sticking there and actually staying to watch my live. So next week, it's 4 p.m. again, and hopefully we won't be having any problems with weather, but if we do, then I guess, we'll figure something out. And I will send out a link for that live. And yeah, have a great week. And if you have any questions, go ahead and email me. Let me know if there's something that you want me to cover in my next live. And then this is also also a knit along going on in my Ravelry group, and then Longmont Yarn Shop also has a knit along going with it too. And I think Hill Country Weavers is about to start it up as well. So hopefully that it will be accessible for everybody. And have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.